everyone. It is Thursday night. It's been a really rainy day. I was out there. Somebody gave me some plants, and so I was out in the pouring rain for about 2.5 hours, pulling the plants that this nice woman gave me for free. And now my children don't know, but they're going to help me put them in the ground in front of our house on the hill. Won't they be excited? I don't know. But besides it being a rainy day, on Monday we read Kevin Henkes. On Tuesday we read a book by Kevin Henkes, and on Wednesday we did. I'm going to switch gears because something was happening yesterday that was very special that I love every single spring. It's happened for the last, I think like 5 or 6 years outside my dining room window. And I will share that with you on the email that I send your parents. And right now, I'm going to read The Best Nest. And then you'll find out why I thought of this book and why I sent the other videos as well. The Best Nest by P.D. Eastman. Mr. Bird was happy. He was so happy he had to sing. This was Mr. Bird's song. I love my house, I love my nest, in all the world my nest is best. Then Mrs. Bird came out of the house. It's not the best nest, she said. Does he look happy or sad that she said that? I think he looks sad. I'm tired of this old place, said Mrs. Bird. I don't like it at all. Let's look for a new place right now. Ooh. She's not being very nice about it, is she? So they left the old place to look for a new one. This place looks nice, said Mr. Bird. Let's move in here. I think they're going for the tree trunk. But somebody else had already moved in. What is that? It's a raccoon, and he does not look happy. So they looked at another house. This one looks nice, said Mr. Bird, and there's nobody in it. What is that? It's a boot. Uh-oh. What just went in it? You're wrong, said Mrs. Bird. This house belongs to a foot. Good thing they weren't in there. That would be not good. So they went on looking. I like this one, said Mr. Bird. It has a pretty red flag on the roof. I've always wanted a house with a flag, said Mrs. Bird. Maybe this place will be all right. What is it? Oh, no. And look who's coming down the road. Yep, it was the male person. But it was not all right. I guess I made a mistake, said Mr. Bird. You make too many mistakes, said Mrs. Bird. She really isn't very nice to Mr. Bird, is she? I'm going to pick the next house. And there it is, right here. What is that? It's a church. They flew in. They looked around. Isn't it too big? Asked Mr. Bird. I like this big place, said Mrs. Bird. This is the place to build our new nest. They went right to work. They needed many things to build their nest. First, they got some hay. They got some soda straws and broom straws. They got some sweater string. They got some stocking string and mattress stuffing. They got some horsehair. They got some man hair from the top of his head and his beard. Soon they had all the hay, all the straw, all the string, all the stuffing, all the horsehair, and all the man hair they could carry. They took it all back to build their nest. One time a robin built a nest above our house, and it looked like a pile of garbage, because those are all some of the things that the robin had found. It was a big mess. Mr. and Mrs. Bird worked very hard. It took them the rest of the morning to finish their nest. "This nest is really the best," said Mrs. Bird. "I want to stay here forever." They look like robins, actually. Mr. Bird was very happy too. He flew to the top of his house. He sang his song again. "I love our house, I love our nest. In all the world our nest is best." He was so busy singing, he didn't even see Mr. Parker coming. Every day at 12 o'clock, Mr. Parker came to the church. Mr. Parker came to pull a rope. The rope went up to the bird's new nest. The rope rang the big bell right under the Mrs. Bird's nest. Bong, bong, bong. Uh-oh. Mrs. Bird got out of there as fast as she could fly. Bong, 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 bong. Guess what? Mr. Parker rings it at 12 o'clock every day. How many rings does he have to do? He has to do 12, right? That's a lot of bongs. When Mr. Bird came in, all he could see was a mess of hay and string and stuffing and horsehair and man hair and straws. Where was Mrs. Bird? He doesn't see her. He doesn't know what happened. "I will look for her until I find her," said Mr. Bird. He looked high, he looked low, he looked everywhere for Mrs. Bird. He looked down into a chimney, but Mrs. Bird wasn't there. He looked down into a water barrel, but Mrs. Bird wasn't there. Then he saw a big fat cat. There was a big fat smile on the fat cat's face. There were some pretty brown feathers near the fat cat's mouth. Mr. Bird began to cry. "Oh dear," he cried. "This big fat cat has eaten Mrs. Bird." Oh no. Mr. Bird flew off. "I'll never see Mrs. Bird again," he cried. It was getting dark. It began to rain, kind of like today. It rained harder and harder, definitely like today. Mr. Bird could not see where he was going. I can't tell if those are tears or raindrops. Crash! Mr. Bird bumped into something. It was his old house. That old house that Mrs. Bird did not like at all. "I'll go inside," said Mr. Bird. "I'll rest here until the rain stops." Mr. Bird went in, and there was Mrs. Bird, sitting there singing. "I love my house, I love my nest. In all the world the nest is best." "You? Here?" gasped Mr. Bird. "I thought you didn't like this nest at all." Mrs. Bird smiled. "I used to not like it at all," she said. "But a mother bird can change her mind. You see, There's no nest like an old nest for a brand new bird. Look what color that egg is. It's blue. Those are robins. Those are the kind of birds that made their nest on top of my doorway in front of our house. And it was the same kind of nest with all sorts of different things. And when the egg popped open, the new bird thought that it was a great nest as well. And that is the best nest. And when you look at the YouTube videos of what's going on in our backyard, I think you'll know why I asked Margot to look for this book on the bookshelf downstairs. I love you all. Sweet dreams if you're watching it at night, and good morning if it's in the morning.